Rolltide Wire. Been a minute, my good man. How's it been going? How's the family treating you?
Oh man, everything's great. Good to be with you, Blake. Excited to talk about this game. Man, this is the game I look forward to. I mean, really most since Saban's been in Alabama, Tennessee hasn't really been relevant. And I know they got the best of us last year, but Auburn hasn't, they've had a couple good years, but LSU's been that rival since Saban's been in Alabama. So this game means a little something extra to the folks in Alabama.
It normally, so I'm glad you brought that up because the true Bama fans, the true ones, I know Auburn's a big one. I know that Auburn is the in-state, little brother. I get it to Alabama fans. Like you mentioned, this feels, Stacey, at least to me, like the one that has meant the most, the biggest rival, as you mentioned. But you know what's interesting? Outside of 20 and 2021, this game feels back. Like this game, unlike Texas, I guess maybe they could be back, but it feels like it's back. Let's get into it. What do you think about this game? What is some of the things when you look at this matchup that intrigue you the most?
Well, it's obvious that it's LSU's offense against Alabama's defense. It's strength on strength. Jayden Daniels is the best quarterback in the country right now. Look, I don't know that he'll be the best pro out of the guys in college right now, but he's the best college quarterback in the country. I don't even think there's an argument, in my opinion. I mean, he is carrying this LSU team. I think they, I heard somebody at Carlton bring up the running game. They got an underrated rushing attack as well. Logan Diggs is a good back. They got, Jayden Daniels is a capable runner. So the passing attack with Daniels and Neighbors and Thompson kind of gets all the attention, but their ability to kind of be balanced and rush for over 200 yards a game is really what kind of keeps them going and keeps the defense honest and allows those big plays to happen in the passing game. So it's that LSU offense against Alabama's defense who really seems to be finding, who they are. They were a little banged up really after the first game of the season in the back end. They're starting to get a little healthier now, and they're playing really well on that side of the ball.
Look, everybody wants to tune in this game because of it being LSU and Alabama. But the truth is what you just talked about, it being, Stacey, a really good defense, a really good offense squaring off. And you know what's crazy about this is normally, it would be Alabama has a better offense and LSU has a really good secondary defense. It's kind of flip-flop. Now, I don't know if Bama would be – it's kind of just the opposite of last year. You got Bryce Young, this high-flying offense, 42 points a game. They're coming in here, top 5 offense. And you know what's former Heisman Trophy winner, and it kind of feel like it flip-flops here. My question ultimately comes is from an Alabama fan's perspective, if this game gets in a shootout, are you a little worried as a fan if you're Alabama?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I'm not sure. Look, Milroe and the offense have obviously made some improvement throughout the season, but they're not ready for a shootout. They're not consistent enough on that side of the ball, and it starts up front. They have some lapses up front on the offensive line and pass protection. Milroe is still learning to play the position and lead the offense. So the rushing attack is not as consistent as it should be. So yeah, I think if it's a shootout, if it gets above, I would say 35 to 38 points, then I would lean heavily towards LSU winning that game.
Let's take it on the opposite side. This defense is really good. Look, I think this secondary is highly underrated. I think the Arnold kid is really underrated.
Yeah.
In that secondary, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Downs, everybody knows about them. What intrigues you about this Alabama defense that maybe they can, I don't want to say stop, but slow down this LSU attack offensively?
Well, they do have a really good pass rush. I mean, they're in the deep interior of the defensive line. I think this season is much improved than what we've seen the last couple of years. I think Tim Keenan, Justin Aboybe, Tim Smith, Jaheim Otis, they're all playing really good football right now. And that's allowed guys like Braswell and Dallas Turner to kind of feast on the edge there and win some one-on-one matchups that they hadn't been getting the last couple of years. So I think the interior defensive line is playing really well, and that has allowed the versatility of the back end of that defense to kind of shine because, Malachi Moore is a veteran player who's played a lot of football in the SEC. He can play corner. He can play star. star. He can play safety. Caleb Downs gets moved around a good bit. Teron Arnold's even played some star and some corner. So there's a lot of versatility back there, and there's really about 6 to 7 guys that are playing a lot of first team reps for Alabama.
Right.
And there's really not a drop off when somebody comes off the field. So I think the depth and versatility of that back end is really creating a lot of problems for opponents. And look, like you mentioned, it's going to be key because you're not going to stop Jayden Daniels in this offense. You're just not. I mean, they're too talented. They're too experienced. Neighbors and Thomas are the best wide receiver duo in the country. So, I mean, they're both on pace to go for 1,200 plus yards and double-digit touchdowns. I mean,
Right.
you're not going to stop them. So your hope is to me, if you're Alabama's defense, is you slow down LSU's running game enough that I don't want to say you make them one-dimensional because that is, I mean, they're a great passing offense, but don't let them run on you. You can't let them pass it and run on you. So you have to take away something. And to me, if Alabama can slow down the LSU running game and not allow them to get in a lot of third and mediums or third and shorts, then I think they'll be in a little bit better position to win because I do like the versatility of the Alabama secondary, and they're capable of making plays and creating turnovers.
So that's a really good point, Stacey, that I didn't really think about. Now I'm a little intrigued by. I'm going to deviate off my next question. How do you think LSU attacks them then? If you're LSU, how would you attack Alabama then? Because that's an interesting point you just bring up. Like, hey, man, because, Stacey, I'll be real with you. I thought the opposite would have come, and you would have said, hey, man, don't let LSU just throw it all over the place. Let them, if they're going to do it, let them try to beat us up front. But you're coming here with the opposite, and I think it's really intriguing. Why can you just continue to go down that a little bit more on that?
When I think of this game, it reminds me of last year's Alabama-Tennessee game. Look, the Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt connection was obviously huge in that game. But what won that game from Tennessee is their ability to run the ball on first and second down and create very manageable third down situations for Hooker. They didn't know if they were going to run or pass. And it caught Alabama off guard, and they could not recover. And of course, DeMarco Hellams got exposed in that game, and Pete Golden really had no adjustment. So, but it was Tennessee's ability to run the football consistently in that game is what led to Alabama really just play. They were on their heels the entire contest.
One thing that I said last night, Stacey, that I don't think a lot of LSU fans agree with me, but I'm going to continue to say it. Jayden's going to have to run the ball 15 to 17 times. Like, look, if Milton can get to the outside, he can. Look, I get you don't want him running that much that puts him in harm's way. But like you talked about last year, Jayden Daniels' ability to be like the big run, what was it? Saban even talked about it, the 25-yard run in overtime. Like, look, man, Dallas Turner's not slow, but he's fast. I do agree with you because my key to victory. So I give them on. I don't like divulging them before Thursday, but I've said it all week. I somewhat agree with you. Like, hey man, if Jayden takes off here, you got a really good chance. Like if he goes for 280 and 105 yards on the ground, I think you win. Right?
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
One thing that I want to flip the script here because LSU's defense is not that good. Okay. And I do think that Alabama can get some yards on them. But I do think, Stacey, tell me if I'm wrong here. When I watch Alabama, I feel like this. The first half, offensively, they just look blah. But, man, I watched this team in the second half. Me and the team got done watching the film against Tennessee on Sunday night. And I'm like, who the shit is that team in the second half? Has that just been Alabama all year in the second half? The offense just gets rolling after adjustments?
It really is. It's almost like in the first half, they're feeling out how the defense is going to play them, and then they get in the locker room at halftime. Is like, all right, this is what we're going to do in the second half because this is how they played us in the first 30 minutes. And whether that's what's happened or not, that's what it seems like from the perspective of watching the game. And a lot of it is that Milroe is still. He is still so green. And look, I think he has a lot of talent. He has a lot of natural ability, but he's learning the quarterback position and how to lead the team and how to kind of be that signal caller for the offense. So it's a work in progress for him. But yeah, Alabama's definitely been a second half team offensively, and I think another side of that is Tommy Rees is also learning this offense, and because Nick Saban's talked about it. You don't come in and bring your offense to Tuscaloosa. You learn the Alabama offense when you come and take the offensive coordinator job. So, I mean, he's learning the offense and learning the personnel that he has and trying to kind of gel with those guys and kind of create the best, opportunities for those guys to be successful. And sometimes that takes to the second half of games to kind of see how those defenses are playing you.
Stacey, I had to take a step back this week because when we were watching Texas, okay, I'm like, because, look, when Alabama goes down, and you know this, you cover the team, so you probably know it more than anybody in this chat or myself included. When Alabama goes down, logic leaves the building, okay, from all across the country.
Yep.
When Texas goes into Tuscaloosa and win, you forget that Jermaine Burton had 2 touchdowns in that game that got called back on. And look, I don't like Bama as an LSU fan. You don't like LSU as a Bama fan. But I got to be real in saying that's some ticky-tack calls that those touchdowns got called back on. I'm not saying that this team should be undefeated, but they're a Proctor holding call away from being undefeated. Does that give Alabama fans hope? Like, hey, man, even in that loss, you had 2 touchdowns that were taken away. Maybe we can run the table here in the West and get into the SEC championship.
Yeah, I think most fans, as they've watched the season progress, they've saw the team progress as well. And a lot of people forget Alabama took a lead into the fourth quarter against Texas. They had a lead, and that defense was just gassed in that fourth quarter and couldn't get a stop. And Texas just run it up on them. And Milroe was not ready for that moment yet. Right. And so I think that's an early season game, and I think in a lot of ways, LSU and Alabama are kind of similar in that scenario. They both had some early season losses or a loss that people kind of write them off because of that. And look, that seems like ages ago now for both LSU's losses and Alabama's loss. Neither one of these teams are the same teams they were in week 2 or even week 5. So I think both teams should be confident and both fan bases should be confident, not only entering this matchup, but for the remainder of the season, because both these teams are capable of winning this game and going on to win the West. So I think from an Alabama fan's perspective, yes, logic obviously leaves the room when they take a loss. But I think over time they've seen the improvement, especially offensively. I think they always felt the defense was going to be good once they got some games under their belt and some chemistry built up. But I think as they see the progress the offense is making and that Milroe is making, they're gaining a little more confidence in this team.
How do you envision Alabama's offense versus this LSU defense that has been very suspect this year?
Well, look, you got to attack them in the running game. They what is it, 4.6 yards per carry that they're giving up? You have to be able to run the football if you're Alabama.
Hey, 3 weeks ago it was 6.8.
So I mean Alabama's got to be able to run the ball in this game, or they have no shot. Because if they can't run it on LSU, I don't know who they're going to run it on. I mean, LSU's got some good players, but for whatever reason, this defense is not gelled this season. And, I don't know the program like you do. Maybe you have the answer to why the defense is having the struggles they're having, but
yeah, it's DC. That's the reason. I mean,
anyway, I know that feeling. But I mean, you see the turnaround Alabama's had, with Kevin Steele now, but Alabama's got to be able to run the football. They need to design, some runs for Jalen Milroe. You saw that a little bit in the second half against Tennessee. You saw some motion, some jet sweep to Kendrick Law in that game as well. So
yeah,
just plays like that, some zone reads, QB powers, QB counters. Just get Milroe involved in the running game. And what that does also is it shrinks the game some, keeps Jayden Daniels on the sidelines where he can't light you up on the offensive side of the ball. So they just got to be able to run the football. If they can run the football, that's going to give them the best chance to win.
Is Milroe hurt, or was he hurt?
There has been a lot of talk that he's I think it was the week before the A&M game or the week after the A&M game. He had a hamstring injury. Now, that has not been officially confirmed by anybody that I really trust, but that has been something that circulated pretty frequently ever since about the A&M game.
You think he can have another hamstring injury? I mean, hey, man, we need him to have one. I mean, I'm just saying. When you look at LSU defensively, is there one place that you think Saban and Reese and everybody, what's the one area? I mean, I know corner because LSU guys out there. Do you think that's where they go first?
I think they have to. I mean, you look at what Jermaine Burton and Isaiah Bond have been able to do, especially deep down the field this season. I think you got to take your shots when you have them if you're Alabama, especially with the injuries that LSU has had there in the back end, and that's just unfortunate. And not just injuries, but other situations as well. But I think Reese and this offense have to attack that secondary for sure.
Do you think? Well, see, because my thought is, to your point, LSU's got, as crazy as this sounds. Okay, I know this is nuts. I know LSU's rolling freshmen out there at the secondary. Stacey, I'm with you on the flip side of you got to let Bama run it on you. Don't make Milroe beat you from the pocket. Right. Because I do think eventually he might make a mistake that could win you the football game. Like that would be my thought.
No doubt.
But the problem with that is, okay, you're running a freshman in a first time start out there and nobody's seen him play. That's the problem. So, God, this is going to be a good one.
This game right here has a chance to be the game of the season.
I agree.
Across the country. I mean,
that was my question. How do you see it going? Before we get you out of here, how do you see it going?
Look, I really thought, I've said it already. I think this game could go either way, and I think it's going to depend on. It sounds so old and it sounds like we're talking like it's 2011, but I think whichever team runs the ball the best is going to win the game. And I do think there's going to be some points scored because LSU is just too good offensively. You're not going to stop them. Look, and that doesn't mean Alabama's defense is not good. It's just the era we're in. If you've got an elite quarterback and elite receivers, you're not going to stop them. I don't care how good you are defensively, unless they just unless they help you have an off night, drop a couple passes that they should catch.
Like Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, so unless something like that happens, LSU is going to put up some points. But I do think Alabama at home, Alabama's kind of got that, I hate using the word revenge. I think that's a little bit overplayed in a lot of situations.
I do too.
But, I do think players want some redemption. I think that's a better word. Redemption is a little bit better because revenge is, I just don't like that word. But Alabama's got some redemption. They're at home. I think they're starting to play their best football this season. And I do think it gets into the 30s, but it's the low 30s. I think Alabama squeaks out a 34-30 win.
Okay. With that same thought process, let me ask you this. If Alabama wins, what is the Monday morning headline? If Alabama loses, what is the Monday morning headline?
Well, if they lose, it'll be the same it is every week. The Saban dynasty is over. Like, I don't know how often that's going to be used, but right. No, in all seriousness, if they win, I think it's more about Alabama reemerges as title contender.
Mm-hmm.
And
why
I think
did we ever doubt Saban? That was,
something along those lines. And if they lose, it's probably has Brian Kelly overtaken Saban. I know the West is going away, but as the clubhouse leader in the West, or something along those lines. But either way, I think the winner of this does go on to win the West. I know Ole Miss is still out there, but I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if A&M beats them this weekend. I'll just be honest.
State
with the way Kiffin's talking this week. I mean,
I literally right here we're doing picks right after you leave. I put Ole Miss question mark taking A&M in points.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't trust them. I do not trust them.
I don't either. The only thing is Kiffin does not like Jimbo, and this is it's his reverse kryptonite. Okay,
right.
Reverse kryptonite. He always does well against Jimbo. All right, I lied. Last one before I get you out of here. Adam Abear says Blake asked Stacey if Saban puts Vienna sausages in his gumbo. What do you think about that?
Oh my gosh!
I don't think Nick gets anywhere near a stove.
I don't think he does either. He made a comment last week. He doesn't even drink anymore. He hasn't drank since he had kids.
That's what Saban said?
What he said.
Do you believe him?
I can just picture. I think Saban's probably sipping on wine right now.
That's what you can't tell me that a guy that plays VR didn't have a glass of wine at Christmas.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%.
All right, Stacey Blackwood, buddy, thank you so much. Tell everybody where they can catch all your stuff.
Yeah, just head over to rolltidewire.usatoday.com. You can catch us. I'll be doing some stuff later this week with the LSU part of the College Wire, so make sure you check out that as well. Blake, it's been so much fun. I always enjoy catching up with you, man. I hope we can do this more often. I think it's going to, like I mentioned, I think this is going to be the best game of the college football season. I just think it's going to be, incredible.
Me too, man. I'm really looking forward to it. My anxiety level is always high this time of year, so I don't like that. But the less amount of anxiety that I've ever had was last year, because I'm like, look, man, that Bryce Young, and then they won.
Right.
And every other year, I don't feel good about it, Stacey. I didn't feel good, but nevertheless, it's good to